Before we jump into today's episode, quick disclaimer that this podcast isn't therapy. It's educational, not individualized advice. Everyone's brain and story are different, so if you're struggling, reach out to a licensed pro who can support you.
We talk about the stuff no one dares. ADHD, sex, and the science that cares. Real talk, raw truth, and the stories that heal. Welcome to ADHD Reality with Dr. B.
All right, my peeps, I got a quick disclaimer before anyone turns this episode into this generalization debate and you come at me in the comments. I am not talking about all men or all women or all relationships here. I am talking about reoccurring patterns that I am seeing in my clinical work, which is primarily with heterosexual individuals and couples. And you're going to hear me use she, her pronouns, and this is done intentionally because that reflects the clients I most often work with, not because these dynamics only exist there or because other experiences don't matter. And if you recognize similar patterns in a different relationship structure, that doesn't mean this episode was, quote, about you. It means unexamined expectations and unequal emotional labor aren't limited to one demographic. So I was trying to figure out what the hell did I want to talk about in today's episode. I feel like I've covered so many different things over the past couple of individual educational episodes. And something that I actually realized last week leading into this recording is that there is a pattern that I see quite often with the heterosexual couples that I work with. And I do want to be very transparent and upfront to ensure that as I go into this topic, that we all are kind of on the same page, because this isn't actually a ADHD problem. It's not an autism problem. And it's definitely not a, she doesn't care problem. What this actually is about a misinterpretation. So a misinterpretation problem, really. And it's layered on top of a few things. Gender roles, emotional labor, and a bigger one that I really like to amplify here is executive function overload. And so, as always, I want to be very clear. I see this over and over again in my work where a lot of the women, especially ADHD and autistic women, are not pulling away because they don't love their partners. The pattern that I continuously see in the work that I do is that they are burning out because they are being asked, whether it's implicitly or explicitly, to be the nervous system of the fucking relationship. That is a huge thing. And once you can see that, you can't unsee it, which is actually really important. So one of the things I like to remind people is that in heterosexual relationships, the pattern that gets kind of outlined or seen is that women are almost always carrying the executive emotional load of the relationship. And I want to be very careful here because this isn't about blaming men or demonizing partners. This is about naming a pattern that exists even when nobody intends it to. And I think that's the key here, because I have to be honest, I am like so lucky. I have yet to work with an asshole. I have yet to actually work with a selfish person. I have been grateful for the last 7 years to work with so many amazing people. So I really want to stress that this also is really not about anyone purposely creating this dynamic, purposely creating this system, right? But it's a system and a dynamic that is being experienced, and without understanding it and seeing it and understanding the layers, you're going to have a really hard time getting out of it without feeling like either one person's being rejected or one person's being completely overwhelmed, right? And so one of the things that often occurs is that women are often, again, in my practice, what I'm seeing, being the ones to remember the things, tracking the emotional climate of everyone in the household, anticipating the needs before they're even freaking spoken. Managing conflict tone is another big one. Being what I like to call the relational historian. I feel like there's more here. Ooh, noticing the distance or disconnection in the relationship, initiating the repair, holding space for anyone or everyone else's feelings. That's a lot. And even in good relationships, it is what's happening. Because again, I'm so grateful. I don't work with people in crappy relationships. I work with people in relationships that are filled with love and care and intent. But even with kind, well meaning, emotionally invested men, these things are happening. So when a woman with ADHD or autism can't show up the way her partner wants, it's often not because she doesn't have energy necessarily. I want to bring in this other layer that becomes a very big reality for a lot of the people I work with, that she has already spent it managing the relationship itself. And that's the frame most couples are missing. And without it, everything gets very much personalized. And something I see partners get stuck in all the time is that a lot of men look at their partner and see what they can do and then use that kind of as evidence against her. You know, saying things like, she can work, she can parent, she can see her friends. Look, she can hyper focus on a project. She loves doing that. She can clean the house at midnight. And I gotta be completely honest with that last one. I bring that up because that generally, depending on the person, because everyone is their own individualized person. If you haven't gotten that message from me, if you've been listening to me from the very start, some people love to clean. It's a stress reliever. It calms the nervous system. But a lot of the times, at least the women that I work with, us women who are cleaning the house randomly, sporadically at different times of the night, it's because there's such a state of urgency from the fucking chaos and the lack of order in our life and then within our home that we have no choice, but we have to act. And we get this like boost of fucking adrenaline just to like go, 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 go. It's like the stress response cycle, if you will. So anyway, I digress. I'm so sorry. And when we are looking at the comparison, right, of like the partner saying, hey, my partner can do all of these other things, the question then comes out usually with a genuine form of confusion and pain. So why then can't you show up for me? And the part people don't want to hear is that because none of those things that I listed, amongst many other things probably, require her to be the emotional regulator for another adult. And again, that can sound really harsh. And I really want to remind anyone listening to this episode, are there bad people? Yes. Are there good people? Yes. I am talking about this being a reality for those people who truly care and truly do love. So while that can be hard to hear, it isn't necessarily a jab to you. It's a jab to the reality of the potential system and the dynamic that is actually working against your relationship instead of with it. And connection with a male partner in a lot of heterosexual relationships do often come with a lot of invisible expectations. From responsiveness to reassurance to availability, one's ability to pace emotionally, emotional attunement. And at the core, those are all executive function tasks. So no, this isn't about really energy for what she wants. It's about energy she's allowed to spend without being responsible for someone else's emotional outcome. And that's not selfishness, that's nervous system math, my friends. And again, going to be very clear here before anyone twists this or runs to the comments. This isn't about women being responsible for carrying the relationship at their own expense. It does not mean partners should accept emotional starvation. It does not mean ADHD or autism gives you this free pass to ignore a relationship. This is where nuance matters, because some couples are genuinely like a dynamic where one partner leads emotionally, and that works for them. They've agreed upon that. They enjoy that. And some people prefer that structure. Some relationships are built that way intentionally because that's what works for them. And that's fucking phenomenal. But here's the thing, consent matters. And if you haven't had a fucking conversation about your dynamic and how it is, there's been no consent. There has just been a straight up form of expectation due to gender roles and where you're at in the relationship. And what I see clinically is indeed that. It's not a preference. It's default assignment. Roles people slide into without any fucking discussion, awareness, or renegotiation. And default assignment, first and foremost, is not sexy. And the other big thing here is that with the work I've done, it totally turns into a form of resentment and burnout. And I know that there is probably research out there to support the clinical experience of that. Haven't cared to look in it, but now that I've said it out loud, probably will be doing that. And when we look, and this is so, okay, I just threw a lot at you, an important lot. But when we do look at a lot of neurodivergent women, they have been showing up past capacity for years. From the masking, the people pleasing, the performing, the emotional availability of nurture or care, depending on the dynamic there, overriding their own sensory limits, overriding these internal signals that say, wow, this is too much. Doesn't matter. And for a long time, it worked. And it does work until it doesn't. And then, this is the kicker, something happens. Either it's a diagnosis, a burnout, kids, perimenopause, or, if you're lucky, all the fucking above. And guess what then happens? The system collapses. Because we're only human. We cannot handle everything. We are not super women. We are not supermen. We are not super beings. And this is where then this gets turned, because the partner says, usually with the fear and the grief, wow, you've changed. No. She stopped surviving. And that right there is not about regression. That's the cost of running past capacity for way too long. And if I haven't made you uncomfortable already, if you're the partner in this relationship that has potentially been the one sitting on the sidelines, not sure what's going on, but taking it more as a change in who they are, this is going to get very uncomfortable. Because it is not her responsibility to continue showing up in ways that harm her nervous system just to preserve relational comfort. But listen, that doesn't mean she gets to disappear. It doesn't mean you get to disappear. It doesn't mean the relationship doesn't matter. It means the terms need to change. And it is both partners' responsibility to look honestly at what connection actually is costing, who has been carrying what, and whether the current dynamic is sustainable. And this never is about blame. This is about renegotiation before resentment calcifies. Ooh, I haven't said that word in so long. That's like one of those words that just feels really good to say. Ooh, ADHD brain. And this is the work I do with my couples, my amazing couples. We have to name what's going on, and then we have to work on changing it if both people are ready participants. And there's different layers for different people. There's different weight for different people. And this is why therapy and coaching, depending on who you're going to, is a really important stepping stone for momentum of your relationship. Because there's a lot of things to feel out. There's a lot of layers to unpack. And everyone is unique in their relational dynamics and what's coming with that. And I think if I could leave you with an approach that might be a little different if you're navigating this and you haven't reached out to a qualified professional and you're not working with somebody yet, a really good place of pause or reframe is, instead of asking the typical question of, why won't you show up for me? Try asking, what emotional labor am I assuming my partner will do without realizing it? What does connection cost her specifically? Not this theoretical shit. Where did our roles come from? And did we ever even consent to them? Did we have a conversation about them? Did we actually say, this is what we want, this is how we want it? Or was it just assumed? Is this a disconnect or an unspoken role that she just never agreed to carry? Because if your relationship only works when one person is taxed out, let me tell you something, that is not intimacy. That is exhaustion. That's unfair setup. And I gotta say, with the work I've done in this area, it's not about her being lazy or selfish. She's not choosing against you for the most part. She's responding to a system where her nervous system has been literally overdrawn, like my bank account when I was a kid, or a teen, a kid. That's what happens when I try to make it fucking funny. But it is a very real experience where she is responding to that system, where the nervous system again is just depleted, often in the name of love. And oh my God, I can't tell you how much shame and guilt comes back at a person who's experiencing that. And the real work is not about convincing her to give more or to be this version. It's asking whether the relationship has been built on expectations she was never meant to carry, or expectations she can no longer carry the same way maybe she used to be able to because of perimenopause, because of other factors. Again, this is where conversation, collaboration is so vital. And listen, it's okay if you're not experts in communicating. That's okay. If it makes you feel better, we were never taught how to be in relationships. We were never taught how to effectively communicate with one another. We were taught to put our tail between our legs and carry on in our day-to-day. We were taught very unhealthy communication and coping strategies from a very young age. And so it's okay to reach out, to have somebody help you. And if this episode at any point has made you defensive, I want you to stay curious. Lean into that, because that is data. If it made you feel seen also, I'm so happy, because I do see you. And if it made you realize something has to change, again, that isn't something we should avoid. That's beautiful data. That's data that allows us to continue to grow up the path of management, change, whatever it is you're looking for, growth. It's data. Data leads to curiosity, and curiosity leads to some form of growth. Now, I can't promise if that growth is happily ever after or a mutual separation, right? Those are the two things I always tell my clients. But you're never going to know unless you lean into it. So then the question is, are you ready to lean into it? Thanks for hanging out with me on ADHD Realities. Hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend who gets it. And always remember, your brain isn't the enemy. Work with it and not against it. Until next time, everyone, be well.